Welcome, welcome.
Quick photo, guys. Lewis. How'd you doing? All right, ready? Right here, look, right at me. Right at me, right here. Good, I'm gonna do one more. Hold on.
Cut that too,
ready? Good. Got
Got it? Ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Former F1 driver Ralf Schumacher has delivered a bombshell prediction about Lewis Hamilton's future at Ferrari. The six-time Grand Prix winner suggests the seven-time world champion may retire before his contract expires at the end of 2026. Schumacher's assessment comes after analyzing Hamilton's struggles during his first season with Ferrari. Hamilton currently sits seventh in the drivers' standings with 31 points after 5 races. His Ferrari teammate Charles Leclerc holds a 16-point advantage, having outqualified Hamilton on 4 of 5 occasions. The British driver has managed one top-5 finish in Sunday races, while his only bright spot came with a sprint race victory in China. He just can't cope with the car, Schumacher told Sky Germany's F1 podcast. We talk a lot about Lando Norris and his lack of belief, but it's almost worse with him. You can see that he's really slumped over. Schumacher draws from personal experience to explain his prediction. As someone who competed at the highest level for teams including Jordan, Williams, and Toyota, he understands the psychological toll of struggling to adapt late in one's career. If you're standing there at some point and have no more resources and are permanently slower, then you lose everything, Schumacher explained. I know from my own experience, if it goes on like this, it's no fun anymore. The former driver describes a potential breaking point for Hamilton. Then at some point, he wakes up in the morning and thinks to himself, "Why am I doing this to myself? I'm no longer having fun. I can't do it anymore. I am getting in the way of my team." Hamilton's difficulties began immediately after joining Ferrari in winter 2025, ending an 11-year partnership with Mercedes. The 40-year-old driver has struggled to match Leclerc's pace, particularly evident in Saudi Arabia, where he finished over 30 seconds behind his teammate. Schumacher identifies a deeper pattern in Hamilton's struggles. If it goes on like this, there's a risk that at some point he'll say, "Look, I don't want this anymore. I want to live my life now. I'm 40 years old. I'm so rich. I'm not doing this to myself anymore." Obviously, it's not working out for some reason. The German recognizes Hamilton's proven abilities remain intact. However, China also showed that as soon as he gets into the car and the track and the car suit him, he delivers. There's still something to come. Ferrari management maintains high expectations for their blockbuster signing. Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur provides unwavering support, stating, "I will be 2,000% behind him." Schumacher said, "The expectations are very high, and Ferrari wants value for money. That means he has to make sure he performs. He probably will, because China was no accident." Hamilton acknowledges his adaptation challenges directly. "When I joined Mercedes, the first 6 months were tough, getting attuned to working with new people. Obviously, the engineers that I'm working with now are used to setting up the car for a different driver and a different driver style, and I'm used to driving a car with a different driving style." The contrast between veteran and rookie adaptability emerges when comparing Hamilton to Oliver Bearman. Ferrari Academy driver Bearman has shown competitive speed at Haas, leading the qualifying head-to-head against teammate Esteban Ocon 3-2. Schumacher examines the adaptability difference. A young driver is more used to that. They have a fixed car, so they're used to driving with what they have. Ocon is also having some difficulties with Bearman, because Bearman says, "Okay, this is the car I have to drive it." Hamilton's preferred driving technique proves incompatible with current F1 cars. Schumacher said, "It's a question of driving style, and he just has to manage it now. That's something I didn't manage to do towards the end of my career because I always wanted exactly what I wanted, and the car should do it." Ferrari's development strategy faces potential restructuring if Hamilton departs early. If he gives up now, it would be very early. I can hardly believe that. But if he does, then of course the team will be fully focused on Charles Leclerc and developing the car more in his direction. You can't develop 2 cars in one team. It doesn't work. The course is then clear. Team insiders observe Hamilton's valuable contributions despite on-track struggles. Former Ferrari test driver Mark Jean said, "In the briefings when he talks, you can really tell that he's really giving some very important information, and then he's very exceptional in tire management." Hamilton maintains public determination. He said this in London recently, "Please keep your fingers crossed. I'm not going to give up. We're going to keep getting better. Still we rise, right?"
So proud of Brits. I'm so proud of the sporting fans that we have. Please keep your fingers crossed. I'm not going to give up. We're going to keep getting better. So, thank you all so much. Appreciate you.
Schumacher observes concerning body language. Lewis seems perplexed and desperate, both in what he says and in his body language. I know from my own experience that at some point you wake up in the morning and realize there's no point in continuing to race. You don't want to stand in your team's way. The statistics reveal Hamilton's qualifying deficit to Leclerc, 0.311 seconds across the last 3 events in Japan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. Hamilton recognizes no quick solution exists. If you have a look on what he did in China, or what he did in the race in Bahrain last week, or even on the first part of the session in this weekend, the potential is there for sure. We just have to adjust the balance. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko weighs in on Hamilton's future. Marko says he does indeed seem desperate, but I believe he's waiting for the 2026 car and hopes that Ferrari will not only hit the jackpot with this car, but that the Scuderia will also build a car that he can handle better. The Monaco Grand Prix weekend approaches, marking Hamilton's 6th race for Ferrari. The sprint format mirrors his China success, offering another opportunity to showcase competitive pace in the shorter format. Hamilton addresses adaptation timing. I would say you're generally always a mixture of the two, but I'm definitely working hard to adjust to this one for sure. Fan reactions split sharply on social media. One supporter defends Hamilton. He wrote, "Hamilton won't accept defeat. I don't know how, but I am sure he'll find a way and top his form again." Critics question Schumacher's motives. Who are these people asking Ralf for his opinion? What a waste of time. Ferrari's project with Hamilton represents significant investment. Schumacher acknowledges, "It's a huge project that Ferrari and Hamilton had in mind, but at the moment he's a long way away from Charles Leclerc. I wouldn't have thought it would be so extreme." The road ahead features circuits potentially suited to Hamilton's driving style. Schumacher suggests hope remains. He just has to find the conditions and the car that suits him, and there are definitely circuits coming up that suit him. Hamilton's contract potentially extends through 2027 with a reported 2+1 year deal. The 7-time champion's age factor intensifies scrutiny as he approaches 42 by contract completion. Miami Grand Prix presents immediate opportunities for improvement. Adjustment efforts continue intensively. Schumacher's prediction carries weight from personal experience. Career endings challenge even the greatest drivers when equipment no longer suits their techniques. F1's ground effect era, beginning in 2022, marked the start of Hamilton's adaptation difficulties. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix delivered a bombshell moment. Max Verstappen, the 4-time world champion, made a decision that left everyone stunned. After receiving a controversial penalty that cost him the race win, Verstappen chose complete silence, refusing to discuss the incident at all. This wasn't just a momentary frustration. Verstappen has fundamentally changed his approach to media interaction, claiming that driver criticism is now effectively impossible in F1. His calculated silence speaks volumes about the current state of driver expression in the sport. Let's break down exactly what happened in Saudi Arabia, why the penalty was so controversial, and what this new Verstappen approach means for Formula One going forward. The drama began at the very start of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Verstappen had secured pole position at the Jeddah Corniche circuit, but McLaren's Oscar Piastri got a significantly better launch when the lights went out. As they approached turn 1, Piastri had pulled alongside Verstappen on the inside line. The Australian had positioned himself perfectly. His front axle was clearly alongside Verstappen's mirror at the apex of the corner. According to the 2025 Drivers' Standards Guidelines, this meant the corner belonged to Piastri. Verstappen, fighting to maintain his position, attempted to go around the outside. However, he ran out of room as Piastri held his line through the corner. Rather than concede the position, Verstappen cut across the escape area and rejoined the track still in the lead. The radio messages that followed showed both drivers had completely different perspectives on what happened. "He needs to give that back. I was ahead," Piastri told his team. "He just forced me off," was Verstappen's interpretation. The stewards reviewed the incident using positioning data, video evidence, timing, telemetry, and in-car footage. Their verdict was clear. Piastri owned the corner, and Verstappen had gained a lasting advantage by going off track. The result was a 5-second time penalty for the Dutchman. This penalty proved decisive. Despite Verstappen leading the first stint of the race and showing strong pace, when he served his penalty during his pit stop, he emerged behind Piastri. Verstappen crossed the finish line just 2.8 seconds behind the Australian, meaning without the penalty, he would have won the race. What happened next was unprecedented. When David Coulthard attempted to interview Verstappen after the race, the Dutchman refused to discuss the incident at all. Verstappen said,
"Yeah, I'm going to keep it quite short. I just want to say a big thank you to the fans here in Jeddah. It's been a great weekend. I love the track, and yeah, the rest is what it is. I'm looking forward to Miami, so see you there."
Then he walked away before Coulthard could ask follow-up questions. In the post-race press conference, Verstappen maintained this approach. When directly asked about the incident by host Tom Clarkson, Verstappen gave a response that shocked the F1 world.
Your take on what happened at the start?
Yeah, start happened, turn one happened, and suddenly it was lap 50. It just all went super fast. So, yeah. The problem is that I cannot share my opinion about it because I might get penalized also, so it's better not to speak about it.
When Clarkson tried to refocus the question on just the wheel-to-wheel racing aspect, Verstappen simply replied, "It happened very fast." "Yeah?" And when asked if Red Bull had discussed giving the position back immediately, Verstappen doubled down.
I think it's better not to talk about it. Anything I say or try to say about it, it might get me in trouble, so...
This wasn't just a driver frustrated with a penalty. This was a calculated decision to protest what Verstappen sees as an impossible situation for drivers under current FIA regulations. Verstappen's refusal to speak wasn't just about this single incident. He specifically referenced the FIA's regulations restricting driver speech.
What you want to say, but is this directed perhaps at the FIA's swearing rules specifically, or is it directed at something else? Because literally, just for the sake of clarity.
Well, no, I mean, I know that I cannot not swear in here, but at the same time, you can also not be critical or any kind of form that might harm or danger or... Let me get the sheet out. There's a lot of lines, so it's better. That's why it's better not to talk about it, because you can put yourself in trouble, and I don't think anyone wants that.
This references changes to the FIA's rulebook over the winter that codified penalties for drivers who either repeatedly swear or criticize the governing body. These rules were introduced by FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem and can lead to serious consequences, including 1-month bans and championship point deductions. Verstappen had already faced punishment last year when he was given the motorsport equivalent of community service for swearing in a press conference at the Singapore Grand Prix. Similarly, Ferrari's Charles Leclerc was fined for the same offense in Las Vegas. The specific rule in the FIA Sporting Code forbids any words, deeds, or writings that have caused moral injury or loss to the FIA, its bodies, its members, or its executive officers, and more generally on the interest of motorsport and on the values defended by the FIA. In Verstappen's view, this effectively makes it impossible for drivers to express honest opinions about controversial decisions. He stated,
like I said before, I think it's just the world we live in. You can't share fully your opinion because it is not appreciated, apparently. Or people can't handle the full truth. So, yeah, for me, I mean, honestly, it's better if I don't need to say too much. It also saves my time because we already have to do so much, So, yeah, it's honestly just how everything is becoming. Everyone is super sensitive about everything.
While Verstappen stayed silent, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner had no issue presenting their side of the argument. Horner arrived at his media session armed with printed screenshots from Verstappen's onboard camera that he claimed showed his driver was ahead at the apex of turn 1. "I thought it was very harsh," Horner said. "We didn't concede the position because we didn't believe that he'd done anything wrong. You can quite clearly see at the apex of the corner that Max is clearly ahead."
Notion of let them race. I don't know where Max was supposed to go at that first corner. We've lost the race by 2.6 seconds, so it's tough. I think the most positive thing for us today, the pace was there. It was a very positive race. Congrats to Oscar.
Horner also questioned the steward's interpretation of the rules. "When you look at that," he points to screenshot, "I can't see how they got to that conclusion. Max can't just disappear at this point in time. So perhaps these rules need a re-look at." I don't know what happened to let them race on the first lap. That just seemed to have been abandoned. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko backed this view, asking rhetorically, "I think the race was lost at the start. And really, where was Max supposed to go?" Horner explained why Red Bull didn't instruct Verstappen to immediately give the position back. "If we'd have given it up, the problem is you then obviously run in the dirty air as well, and you are then at risk with George Russell. So the best thing to do was at that point we got the penalty, get your head down, keep going." Despite their disagreement with the penalty, Horner confirmed Red Bull wouldn't formally protest the decision. Horner said, "Obviously, we spoke to the stewards after the race. They think it was a slam dunk. So the problem is, if we're to protest it, then they're going to most likely hold their line." McLaren's view of the incident was, understandably, completely different from Red Bull's. Oscar Piastri, who claimed his third win of the season and took the championship lead for the first time in his career, was confident the stewards made the right call. "I got a great launch and got myself alongside," Piastri explained. "From that point, I obviously had to brake quite late, but I knew that I had enough of my car alongside to take the corner. We obviously both braked extremely late, but for me, I braked as late as I could while staying on the track. I think how it unfolded is how it should have been dealt with."
1 and 2.
I got a great launch and got myself alongside, and from that point, I knew that I obviously had to brake quite late, but I knew that I had enough of my car alongside to take the corner. We obviously both braked extremely late, but I think for me, I braked as late as I could without while staying on the track, and I think it was, how it unfolded is how it should have been dealt with.
McLaren Racing CEO Zach Brown was even more direct.
I definitely thought a penalty was deserved. Oscar was clearly up the inside, got a better start, and you need to use the racetrack. Whether it's a 5-second penalty or give the position back, I think it could go either way. But so I thought it was definitely appropriate. It was Oscar's corner, and at some point you got to
McLaren team principal Andrea Stella described it as a clear case that shouldn't create any polemic, adding, "Oscar, thanks to a very good launch off the grid, and thanks to positioning the car on the inside, was slightly ahead of Max, managing to keep the car within the track limits. Then he gained the rights to the corner, and obviously in that situation, you can't overtake off track."
I think Oscar today won the race with a great launch off the grid, perfect management of corner 1. He was tricky alongside with Verstappen, but he managed to be just that little bit ahead onto the apex, keep the car on track, and he deserved to have the lead. And once in the lead, then I think here, the slipstream is still detrimental, so if you are in clean air, you can manage. And I think Oscar did that once again very well. He looks like a veteran.
Beyond his concerns about FIA penalties, Verstappen also explicitly mentioned social media as a reason for his new approach of saying as little as possible.
No, it is just has to do with social media in general, and how the world is. I prefer not to talk, or not a lot, because sometimes your words can be twisted or people interpret it in a different way. So it's honestly better not to say too much.
Verstappen has been highly protective of his friends and family during past social media controversies, notably after the 2022 Brazilian Grand Prix, and has systematically reduced his media commitments as much as possible. His new approach appears to be a conscious decision to limit his exposure to both FIA penalties and social media backlash.